Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. We are presented and brought to you by FanDuel, and we have our USC Transfer Portal recap to get here with us. We have Marc Kulkin with On3 and Locked On Locked On USC. Is it Locked On USC or Locked On Trojans?
Locked On USC, brother.
Okay, that's one of the few ones that it's like the school name and not the mascot name, so I always get them mixed up. But Locked On USC, go over there, check out Marc's work over there. It's one of the main USC podcasts that I listen to. It's daily, it's always in there, and Marc does a great job covering the team, and so you can go over there and check it out. But in this video, we are going to be talking about the transfer portal for USC. Marc, before we get started, I do want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can find podcasts, your social media, anything you want people to find to connect better with you.
As JR said, at least 5 times a week over there on the Locked On Network, Locked On USC. I bring the opinion. So if you're looking for an opinion and not just stats, that's the place to be. And then when I'm not doing the Locked On USC show, every day I'm over there at wearesc.com, part of the On3 network, give you my written content. Plus, if you want all the recruiting gold, Scott Schrader, Eric McKinney, rivals, I mean, that's the place to be. So just like USC.
And I think Scott Schrader was the one that broke the Gary Patterson stuff for USC first, wasn't he?
He was on top of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so good stuff over there at We Are SC. Go check them out. All right. Marc, let's get into the transfer portal here. So we always kind of start with the guys added first because this is the most exciting part about the transfer portal. Obviously, is the guys you're going to bring in. I really like some of the ads that USC made here. You know, Zariah Fisher, Alex VanSumeren from Michigan State. I felt like he was kind of an underrated defensive tackle last season, and so he's going to be going there. Tucker Ashcraft from Wisconsin as well. Felt like USC did a really good job in the portal here. Those are just a few of the names that I'm highlighting as, you know, good pickups for them. But what were your thoughts of who USC picked up, and what are a few names that you'd like to highlight as really good additions for the Trojans?
Sure. So it was actually a kind of a contrast and compare. USC brought in the number 1 ranked recruiting class, 35 guys, and they played the NIL game to the highest level, if you know, as far as acquiring the top talent. It's what you have to do. So common thinking would be, all right, well, they're going to follow suit, do the same thing in the transfer portal. They actually didn't. I don't want to say they went blue light special at Kmart, but they were very specific on their needs, and they didn't overpay. So one player I really like, Jontez Williams, the cornerback that's coming over from Iowa State, veteran with a lot of experience, and that's what USC needs. They've got a really nice young defensive back secondary at USC, but it's young, it's inexperienced. So Jontez Williams brings that experience, which is what you really needed, and he's kind of good at what he does as well. They also needed to bring in a veteran wide receiver. We all know Cam Coleman was on the market. Nick Marsh was on the market. USC, they showed some interest, but what they did is, and I don't want to say they settled, they brought in Terrell Anderson from North Carolina State. Solid pickup. Brings that, again, that veteran experience, a lot of receptions, a lot of yards. He'll be able to kind of fold his way in to USC's class, which, you know, they're bringing in some dudes. They returned Tanuk Hines from last year, but, you know, you're losing Jacoby Lane, you're losing the Bolitnikoff Award winner in Makai Lemon. So you needed to bring in a veteran guy, and that's where Terrell Anderson fits in. You mentioned Alex VanSumeren. I love this pickup. Again, not a big splashy name, but coming out of high school, all the major programs wanted him. He ended up at Michigan State, did a really good job there. USC fans see another version of Gavin Myers with Alex VanSumeren, who USC brought in a couple of years ago from Wisconsin. And they see that same type of role with Alex filling in the middle, that interior defensive help with experience. Again, USC is loaded with young guys. They needed guys who have done it before, and doing it in the Big Ten doesn't hurt, you know, with as far as Alex is concerned. I guess if people want to nitpick, there's 2 areas where USC, myself included, I think they needed to really go heavy, and they didn't. Linebacker, and I think they needed another veteran presence at the safety position. So Coy Parrish was out there. I'm not sure, how heavy USC went into that, but they didn't bring in a safety with experience. They're going with the young guys. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, same thing with at the linebacker. They did bring in Devin Bryant from Washington. He's a downhill guy, run stuffer. That's what USC needed. But again, I think USC fans in particular, were looking for big splash. And USC really didn't go that route with the transfer portal.
And you had both of those positions have switch over the position coaches this offseason too. You have obviously Doug Belk, his contract expires. Looks like Paul Gonzalez, that's the name that's kind of out there on social media right now. He's expected to be the guy to come in there. And then I don't know, Mike Ekler is going to come in as the linebackers coach, also do special teams. Love the special teams coordinator hire there. And then Gary Patterson coming in on the defensive side of the ball as the defensive coordinator too. I mean, what are your thoughts kind of on those hires? And then also, do you feel like Gary Patterson has what he needs with this defense? Because, he's known for the 3-3-5. I have no idea if he's going to run that or if he's going to run a variation of it. I don't know. We saw the 3-3-5 at Nebraska last year. It didn't work out so well, but I think that was probably more of a talent issue rather than a scheme issue. Just curious on your thoughts of the hire of Gary Patterson, some of the new defensive staff, and how that's going to look this season.
Yeah, so you mentioned Doug Belk, no longer with the program. Gary Patterson steps in as a defensive coordinator. Doug Belk was in charge of the safeties. He was also a former defensive coordinator. I think he thought maybe he was higher up on the list to take over for Danton Lynn, who headed back to Penn State. So Gary Patterson specializes in safeties. That's his forte. He also is considered the godfather of the 4-2-5, which is what USC ran last year. And I think, he's innovative enough that whatever scheme he's going to be running, 4-2-5, 3-3-5, whatever it is, it's a hybrid. He can come in and he can take over with what was left, which is a lot of young but really elite talent. And you look at some of the things he did, for instance, when he took over at TCU, 2005, around that time, he had the number one defense as far as plus minus, a lot of turnover takeaways. I think he played like 21 freshmen. So he's going to have a similar opportunity. Same thing in 2012 when TCU moved up to the Big 12. A lot of younger players. Again, multiple double digits with freshmen and sophomores. And even though the overall record, I think they finished 7-6, I think they have the number one defense. So what Gary Patterson brings is experience, knowledge of the defense, plugging up the loose ends where USC was deficient last year. He mentioned on my show, well, he didn't mention it on my show, but his partner at Locked On Big 12, Drake Toll, mentioned it on my show, that he can teach that defense in 3 days. That's all he needs. So if that's the case, USC's returning guys who have been playing in that system for 2 years. Now he just gets to come in, lift up the hood, tighten up the carburetor, make everything work faster, look better. And if that's the case, it's a great hire. He's going to be the head coach of the defense, and that's something Lincoln Riley wanted. He gets to be the head coach of the offense, head coach of the team, but he doesn't have to worry about what's going on the defense. He's got somebody who knows how to handle the situation. Paul Gonzalez worked with Gary Patterson before. I call him a yes man, whatever. He knows the system. He knows what Gary's going to be thinking, how he wants things to work. You mentioned Mike Ekler. He is going to be taking over the linebackers. Rob Ryan will stay upstairs, but he'll do it more in an analyst consulting type of role. And Mike Ekler's passion, his energy, his juice, combined with what he's going to do with special teams. Yeah, I love the hires. I do. I was lukewarm with Gary Patterson, but the more I spoke with Drake Toll, the more he convinced me this is the dude, this is the right guy. So yeah, I'm in.
I love the idea of the head coach of the defense personally.
Yeah.
We've seen that a little bit with Ohio State, with what Ryan Day has done recently. Obviously, Jim Knowles started that. Matt Patricia's kind of continued it on this season. And as somebody who's watched that program very closely, obviously because they've been doing well in college football the past couple of years, it really seems like it's gone very well. Ryan Day has kind of been able to give that away to Matt Patricia, Jim Knowles, whoever it might be, and just kind of let it all work. And if you have a guy who's trustworthy to do that, then I think it's excellent for the program to do, and especially with Gary Patterson, who has previous head coaching experience. My word, so much previous head coaching experience. He's going to have all that in place and do a great job there. So I'm with you. I love the hire of Gary Patterson. I think it's going to work out well. We'll see exactly how well it works out as USC just had their schedule released. It's looking a little difficult there, but I think that USC set up well for next season, especially with some of the talent and stuff they have on the roster.
Absolutely.
If we look at who USC lost in the portal, Husan Longstreet was kind of the big name in that one, right? It was kind of rumored that he might be leaving. I believe it was either his brother or his cousin that had transferred out earlier on in the year, something connected with his brother. Okay. And so there was some thought that might happen. Eventually, it does happen toward the end of the transfer portal. I know USC fans don't seem too heartbroken over it, but just kind of give us your thoughts on that whole situation. He obviously goes to LSU. Sounds like he's probably going to sit there for a year. What do you think happened in that situation with Husan Longstreet?
So I think there is a lack of trust. There was a trust issue, and I think he didn't. I don't know if not playing in the Alamo Bowl was the final strike, but his father has been very outspoken. He doesn't want to hold a clipboard 2 years in a row. He wants to play. He wasn't demanding that he starts, but he wants to play. I think he'll have a better opportunity doing that at LSU because they're just kind of hitting the reset button. So where USC fans, most of them, where they stand on this is this. Look, Husan Longstreet was literally going to be one snap away from being the starting quarterback. Everybody knew Jaden Mayaba, starting quarterback 2026, unless he just craps the bed or gets injured, he wasn't coming out. Now, could Lincoln Riley have put in packages for Husan throughout, during the season, kind of change things up, give the opposing defensive coordinator something to think about, preparing for USC that week? Absolutely. Husan is, I guess, Jontez Williams, who is coming in now, part of the 2026 class. He is in the exact same position that Husan Longstreet was on January 27th, 2025. He's learning the playbook. He's on campus early. They'll go through winter conditioning. He'll be there for spring camp, summer PRPs, fall camp. But guess what? He's going to be backing up Jaden Mayaba. So all we did is move from one freshman to another freshman. Husan Longstreet is looking for greener pastures at LSU, probably with an opportunity to play sooner rather than later. But it would have been his team in 2027. People think, oh, no, Jonas chased him away. This came down to the young man wants to play. LSU probably said, hey, I don't know how much you'll play, but you will play. We can make you that guarantee. And here's a little bit more money to kind of satisfy the situation. And I'll let you in on this. He's kind of down. His family's from the South. So coming out of high school, remember, he committed to Texas A&M. He flipped to USC. He now has the opportunity to play in the South, where I think his heart really was from the very, very beginning. One thing led to another. Here you go.
That makes sense. Yeah, definitely sounds like LSU may have sweetened the pot a little bit more with a little bit more, cash and stuff like that to get in there. And nowadays in college football, you know what? If you can get it, go for it. That's kind of the name of the game in some places. And if he's going to get promised some more playing time there, and Sam Levitt coming off his injury, there might be an opportunity there with that. So that makes sense to me, and I'm with you. I don't think USC is going to be hurting too bad with seems like Lincoln Riley, whoever you put a quarterback back there is going to have a great season. So not to disrespect Jontez Williams at all by that. I'm just saying, Lincoln Riley is fantastic with quarterbacks, and I trust just about anybody back there behind center.
Yeah, whoever was going to be the backup this year is still going to be a backup with little experience. The difference between Husan and Jonas is Husan would have been in the system 1 year longer, which he theoretically said, all right, well, he has the upper hand. So again, him leaving is just, people are really trying to figure out, what were you looking for? Why did you do this? And I think when you just peel back the layers enough, it comes back to, I think he just wanted to be down in the South anyways. And if you can get a little bit, like you said, sweeten the pie, have a better opportunity to play in 2026, knowing that Jaden Mayaba is a starter, he did what was best for him in his mind.
Yeah, and in college football today, you can't knock a guy for that. It is what it is.
The game today. We have to get used to it.
All right, last couple guys I'll ask you about here, Mark, and then we'll get out of here. Devin Tompkins, the defensive lineman for USC, he goes into the portal. Walker Lyons looked like he was ready for maybe a bigger role at tight end this season, and he goes in the portal. Another one that I think went a little bit unnoticed, but I really liked him when I started seeing him was Carlin Jones, another defensive lineman for USC. He's hops into the portal. What's kind of your pulse on those guys, and maybe if there's anybody else that you want to mention that hopped into the portal from USC?
So I would think with Carlon Jones I think he'll have a better opportunity to play elsewhere. Like I said, USC has been really stacking talent these last couple of recruiting classes, and the players kind of get a sense of who's going to be playing ahead of them. Jamion Winfield is coming in right now. He is college ready, young man from Texas. He just recently got a recruiting bump by Rivals. He's now the 11th best player in the country, final ranking. You've got Luke Wafel coming in as the number 1 overall player. Again, he's an outside guy, but Floyd Bucard, Jakeem Stewart, there's just a lot of talent at USC right now. Whether Carlon felt he was part of that rotation, I don't know. Devin Tompkins is an interesting one. All last season, going into the 2025 campaign, the coaching staff could not stop raving about Devin Tompkins. He's the dude. He's going to be the guy. Keep an eye on Devin Tompkins. He's going to do it. He had an up and down season, and I think it's because they really didn't have a set position for him. They moved him inside. They played him outside. He had some great games. He had some games where you're like, what's he doing? Alabama thinks he's good enough, so that's where he's going. Maybe that's a better fit for him. Again, Gary Patterson coming in to kind of help clean up the system that USC has been running, maybe identify better roles for the talent they have on the roster. Who are the other names you mentioned? I'm sorry.
The only other one was Walker Lyons.
Yeah, Walker Lyons. Yeah, he started to have an increased role last season. The tight end room in general did. But his brother is going to be at BYU eventually. Maybe that's what happened. Again, he's from the area. He's a devout Mormon. He did the whole mission thing. So maybe he just heard the calling again. And again, USC bringing in a couple of nice tight ends. You've got Mark Bowman, and you're bringing in Josiah Jefferson, who was the number 1 JUCO guy. USC will be fine at tight end.
Yeah. I forgot about Ryder Lyons. That's a really good point. I should have recognized that from his last name, the way it was spelled and everything. But of course, he goes off on his mission, and so right. BYU is going to have a pretty old team when they get all these guys done with their missions.
They might be the next Indiana for all you know.
Who knows? They might be. All right, Mark. Is there anything else? I mean, to mention here? I think you really did a good job of talking about the freshmen and kind of how that impacts things, because this freshman class is phenomenal for USC. I think we're going to see a good amount of them this season, on top of everything else with the transfer portal players that are added. Is there anything else transfer portal wise you want to get to before we get out of here?
I can't think anything. Like I said, if there's a couple of areas where I thought USC was deficient, and they can still bring guys in, although what I'm hearing is that they're pretty much done, is I would love to see a veteran safety with a lot of experience, someone who can kind of anchor that. Christian Pierce is back there, but he's, again, once you get past 10, there's not a lot of guys with playing experience. And then again, at least one more linebacker would be nice. USC's got to be able to stop the run, and that is the focus this offseason. Get that figured out, as well as special teams that you brought up with Mike Ekler.
For sure. Yeah, it seemed like the linebacker play was more, and I'm not trying to insult Rob Ryan here, but it seemed like it was more coaching related rather than talent related last year. Just guys not really in their gaps, it seemed like, and stuff. And so maybe with Mike Ekler coming in.
Watch. Yeah, it was hard. Trust me, it was hard to watch. It was really difficult to watch. I mean, there was games, you can point to the game when they played Michigan. USC looked like, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. And, Lincoln Riley says post-game, that's what a physical defense look like. We're a physical team. And then the following week, I see that shirt behind you. It looked completely opposite. So,
hey, there was a big flu on that team, right? On the travel.
We're not going to go down that rabbit hole because I don't know. The defense apparently had it. The offense didn't have it.
Yeah.
Talk about food poisoning. I know what you're alluding
Or
to.
food poisoning. That's what it was. Yeah, not the flu, the food poisoning. So, yeah, that's always just kind of one of those funny things that comes up in college football. You don't really hear about that stuff in like NFL and stuff like that, but in college football, you hear about that stuff. And
I will say
I don't
this:
know.
Lincoln Riley did not use it as an excuse after the game.
Oh, he did not at all. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the fans like to lean into that.
For sure. So, all right. Well, Marc, thank you so much for coming in and talking about USC and the transfer portal. Everybody go check out Marc's content over there at Locked On USC and We Are SC. They're the On3 affiliate of USC. We really appreciate everybody watching. Go check out all the other transfer portal recaps. We got Michigan State, Oregon. We had theirs. Ohio State just got done with Minnesota and Wisconsin yesterday. We're going to have Northwestern coming up. Washington's coming up as well. So we're going to get all of these done for you, hopefully by the end of the week, and you should be able to find all of them on the playlist down below. Just go on over there. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.